So I'm back from my hiatus. I'm finally here to review the, somewhat new, movie from Andrew Plush. It's called the FNAF Plush Movie 2 The Fingirls. Before I give my review, I want to say that when I saw how long this thing was, I was hesitating to turn it on, because as soon as it was released, it was already late at night, so this would have been the last thing I watched for the night. I decided to risk falling asleep during the movie and just turned it on. I fell asleep during the first hour of the movie. I decided to wait until I had some free time during the week and watch it. After watching the entire movie, here are my thoughts. The movie kicked off with the apocalypse being started, and has this character whose name is Sneech dying right off the bat. I think the introduction to this movie was nice because it shows a perspective of a character we don't see very often and where he's at during this apocalypse. It shows how dangerous these monsters really are and sets the mood off for the movie. It then proceeds to show a time card saying 10 minutes later and showing Springtrap escaping the lab to start the apocalypse. My issue with this is, if it was only 10 minutes before it started, wouldn't the Fazbears be right in the other room? They were in their house planning and arguing, which by the way I have a lot to say about that Foxy and Freddy beef that happens throughout the movie, but I'll get into that later. Anyways, if Springtrap's whole goal is to kill off the Fazbears, I feel like he could have easily done it when he got out of the lab, especially when they barely had anyone to fight him off in that room, and then he could continue his plan the way he wants to do it. He started an entire apocalypse like 50 years early, all because of the Fazbears. Somewhere in the movie they mention how the Fazbears destroyed a second chance at decency for humanity. That's insane for Springtrap to be this idiotic. All the Fazbears are clearly a threat, so all he had to do is easily kill them himself when he had the opportunity while escaping the lab, and then execute his plan when humanity actually had a chance of becoming better. I feel like this plot hole could have been resolved by just making him escape while they were all in jail so that he had no idea where they were. Then he could have started the apocalypse to have them killed wherever they were. Since Springtrap clearly changed his mindset about his plan, that would have made more sense, but I tried not to let it ruin the movie. All I know is that Springtrap clearly had a change of heart and now they have to deal with a world apocalypse. Back on track, the Fazbears are introduced to the movie nicely. Leaving right off from the last episode, the Fazbears leave in a panic after encountering multiple monsters. They immediately think of a plan, and then hell is revealed.
Yeah, no crap before breakfast, Freddy.
This damn bunny won't stop saying this cringe phrase that wasn't funny the first time, but I think that's what makes his character funny, is him being super annoying. He still remains one of my favorite characters, but the Toy Bonnie character dating Toy Chica might be a good matchup, but it gets super old throughout the movie with all the bits of them making out or being dirty with each other. It takes me away from the actual characters and they barely contribute to any planning or conversation with the group. It ruins the characters for me. Next thing I want to mention is how they ruined Foxy in this movie. Foxy was supposed to be the intelligent one in the group, but him and Freddy completely switched character traits. After Boris was revealed as dead, Freddy starts crying and then Foxy shows no emotion and criticizes Freddy for his reasoning for being sad, and completely ignores the fact that his friend just died.
I know Pigpat is dead. And you don't care! Because you don't have to see... I don't see a tear in your eye right now.
Ironic. He even accuses Freddy of being fake sad when he goes from no emotion to quite obviously faking his reaction in the very next shot.
Now you're just faking it. That's so disrespectful to Boris. And now Boris is dead. Why does this keep happening? We can't have this many people just die!
He was being super hypocritical and it takes away from his character. He becomes selfish by putting his argument with Freddy above someone in the group literally dying. Look, I was tired of Freddy's shit too, but he wasn't meaning any harm in these scenes, so I think Foxy is just being a douche right about now. It's really disappointing because I thought Foxy was a really good character before. The next scene we see El Chip for the first time in this movie. He is stuck in prison for safety reasons due to the monsters roaming the earth. I think El Chip is one of my favorite characters as well. He's a funny character and I'm glad he gets to shine in the beginning of the movie. The creepy cellmate is entertaining too. The Fazbear's plan to team up and save El Chip from prison. I think this was a great idea. The whole saving El Chip plots were super fun and entertaining. Everything in this section of the movie was great, except for Nightmare Foxy explaining the entire plot of an episode from season 2, and the long and boring scene with Boris that they could have done better. But either than that, this was an entertaining section of the movie. I think Frost Bear is becoming one of my favorite characters as well. He's super friendly and sees the bright side in everything, even when the world is ending. The bit of him daydreaming and enjoying nature is a good way to show his character and it makes me like him a lot. The scene with the knocking out bodyguards was fun too. Toy Chica brutally beating the giraffe to death shows a lot about her character. Donald is a funny side character and he's a good replacement for Mickey. Overall, the first half hour of this movie had its issues but was mostly entertaining and important for the movie. It was done for the most part well. A monkey who goes by the name Julio shows up out of nowhere after they had just locked up the jail creep. This character was in a previous film they did based on El Chip's origin story. He basically comes clean and apologizes for scamming El Chip and then they negotiate a way for them to take down Springtrap together, since Julio was secretly working for Springtrap against his will. Nothing much for me to say about these scenes except that it was a bit dragged on. But other than that, I think it's a good way of getting a plot going for this movie and them being able to take down Springtrap. The Fazbears start to plan ways to kill Springtrap. A few things I have to say. 1. Bonnie and Freddy are funny in this movie.
Yeah, no crab before breakfast, we're not prepared, Freddy.
I'd like for you to stop saying that!
Whoa, cool your steam, bro.
Sorry, it's just that you're so annoying.
And 2. Foxy is getting real annoying, as Freddy goes over plans with the group. This guy Foxy decides to input that none of the planning should come from Freddy.
As long as they're not ideas from you, it's fine with me.
Yeah, because Foxy is doing a lot to help during this movie. He's done nothing but complain about his feelings being hurt.
Can we leave personal conflicts aside for now?
Rare Freddy W. Then Puppet contributes something to the group. He showcases something called Remnant. He says he's had it since Pig Patch died, but that doesn't make too much sense to me. After Pig Patch died, Puppet planned to save him with the time machine by going to the past. So why would he do this instead of reviving him with the Remnant? It doesn't make too much sense to me, and hopefully this plot hole is fixed as the show continues after this movie. But long story short, Bendy vouches for his lost friend and argues the group to revive Boris. Bonnie steps in and makes a serious situation comedic. Bonnie is actually funny and him and Bendy's argument was entertaining. They settle on reviving Pig Patch and Bendy lives with that. They revive Pig Patch and Freddy takes yet another L.
Where's my hello?
What?
I never got a hello. You're hitting it off with Foxy and not anyone else.
You mean he's not hitting it off with you, Freddy?
Making his revival about himself and getting jealous at Foxy and Pig Patch catching up. Foxy literally had to carry Pig Patch's body in his arms after being too late to save him, and Freddy moved on from his death like it was nothing, so he doesn't exactly deserve to spend any time with Pig Patch because Freddy is a fake friend who is mentally ill, and is super narcissistic. It seems like Freddy and Foxy are taking turns to see who can act the most shit. There's still hope for Foxy. He's just on his period. But yeah, Pig Patch is back. A monster breaks into the house. This explains how Mickey was killed, which is because the monster broke through a window and killed Mickey, leaving an easy opening for monsters to get in. This section was a highlight of the movie, from the monster point of views, to the chase scene, and the monster breaking through the door. This definitely was a highlight of the plush series. I think Toy Bonnie roasting Freddy's girlfriend Vanny was much needed for his character, because we got to see Toy Bonnie being himself for once instead of him being attached to Toy Chica's face. They come up with a plan to find a new place to stay, and have Puppet get guns that they left in the future from the last episode. and they had Frost Bear and his friend go get food and drinks. Now it's time to discuss the Frost Bear and his friend scenes, who goes by Alan. Alan is a guy who doesn't have much to say and is probably depressed from the apocalypse, but there's no way to know since he doesn't speak for shit. I think it's an interesting character, and then a twin version of his character comes out of nowhere, with no weapon and kills a monster in front of them, and then he dies out of nowhere, from another monster, or the same one that he just killed with his apparent magic powers. What the fuck is even happening right now? The scenes with these two start to get better as they get lost and hungrier, and then Frost Bear starts chasing after Alan so he can eat him. After that, Frost Bear forgets he has a phone and comes to find Freddy has been texting and calling him, so they use his phone to find their way back home. Not much happened with these two. Their scenes weren't bad, but for sure some of my least favorite. I seriously enjoyed Puppet's adventure. The concept of the universe changing the way that it works all because of Springtrap starting his apocalypse earlier is cool to me. The arena battles was cool, and a breath of fresh air from the same old jail scenes we've been getting. He meets a friend in jail named Stormy, who is one of my favorites in the movie. They have a training montage and then hang out together. Them discussing with each other about their life and their potential last days to live was a really cool thing to see, and a cool bond to see. This helped build Stormy up for his fight and made his death more sad. I think this plot was executed well and made me enjoy Puppet more. He then fights a guy named Kid Killer and beats him barehanded. That guy was ass at fighting. Overall, Puppet's adventure brought some of the highlights and most entertaining bits to this movie. Great sections of the movie. We see all of them walking to seek shelter, and shows conversation from both Freddy and Foxy about their recent argument. I didn't say much about their argument in the last review, but I have to say that it was a silly and forced argument, which makes me not take both of them seriously when talking about it. This could have been a better concept for the movie if they had a real argument that wasn't just Freddy talking out of his ass. But I will say that it builds this relationship up well so that when Freddy does end up apologizing it will hopefully mean something. Anyways, Springtrap sounds like he's underwater in the Julio scenes. I feel like Springtrap wasn't in the movie enough to understand his point of view about all this. His plan kind of just happened. But I also have to think about the Afton's plan episode in season 2, and how that explained his entire motive. So I guess there wasn't a need for too much of Springtrap. I guess I just wish we could hear him better in these scenes, but it wasn't that bad. After Julio calls the Fazbears, who are unprepared but on their way to Julio's house, Mario comes running and breaks Bendy's leg. Freddy is pissed at this, which he has every right to be. I mean, this dude Mario is putting the world at risk. Julio tries to stall Springtrap while they wait for Bendy to get his leg fixed. I still think they should have just gone without Bendy. I mean, how much is Bendy really going to contribute to killing Springtrap? Long story short, Bendy gets his leg fixed and they find out Springtrap already left after 2 hours. Surprising. On the bright side, Julio was smart and is now tracking Springtrap and gave Freddy access, so they still have a chance. I think the scenes with the Julio team was funny and entertaining. We got to see some new characters and they all stole the show for the time being.
Alright, let's see what my bet is. Okay. Buzz Lightyear bet.
And of course, Freddy always has a complaint as the first thought in his brain. His first thought wasn't being thankful for a place to stay, but to judge the blanket bitch made. Anyways, Julio comes in, and then explains what the monsters are called. He goes through the meaning of the fingerls and then never visits the topic for the rest of the movie. The movie title really isn't mentioned a whole lot in this film except for that scene right there. I guess it's not a big deal, but just something I noticed. They're on the way to killing Springtrap and notice he's going back to their house to check if they died. Oh boy. They get back to the house and then Foxy starts hallucinating. This has to be one of my favorite scenes. Foxy's mind has been taken over by Springtrap before, but this time it's assigned to show he's near, and to trick Foxy into thinking the world ending was all his fault. And then he escapes the Stark place and it shows a brutal scene of everyone dead with Springtrap in the middle of the destruction. This scene was awesome and might be my favorite in the whole movie. It makes me love Springtrap as a villain and got me scared for Foxy. Then Foxy wakes up and they all hear loud banging. They all say their goodbyes and the scene was done very well. I thought it was great when Alan and Frost Bear came back during this scene, and I loved the way that they were reintroduced. Same with Puppet. But immediately after, Springtrap appears out of nowhere, sort of mysteriously. He jumps down and they all start firing. I thought it was over for Springtrap, but he dodged everything and started floating and knocked all of them down. Foxy's bullets did nothing, so he went and fought Springtrap himself. It all built up to this 1v1. All the trauma Springtrap put Foxy through, and how much they hated each other made this scene way cooler. Springtrap had no reaction as Foxy shot him in the head, and then the screen went white after Springtrap had just used his powers on all of them. He teleports away and doesn't even check if they're dead. I feel like that's pretty stupid of him. But then they all wake up. Well, most of them do. About half of them died from Springtrap, which means they lost. As I was sitting through the same death scene 20 different times, I was thinking how this is going to be good for the next season. But then out of nowhere, Foxy quite literally stabs and kills himself after witnessing everyone's death. Foxy has always been the emotional type when people die, so him seeing half of his friends die might have been the reason for this. It would have been a better scene if Foxy had different lines.
Well, Freddy, the world isn't full of cupcakes and rainbows.
His cupcakes and rainbows line didn't really hit like that, but even after Foxy acted the way he did, I still felt sad that we won't see much of him for a while. Random shot of Springtrap, and then they take back their house and the movie ends. The scene at the end was cool, seeing who the creepy guy was, but I thought they locked this guy in his cell earlier in the movie. He probably found out that it doesn't lock and he could just open it or something. A small plot hole, but nothing big. This guy looks weird. My overall thoughts on this movie was I really enjoyed it, despite some plot holes, characters being destroyed, and annoying scenes. This movie brought the best out of the series. It showed the best sides of everyone, except for Foxy having the worst side of him being shown, which I hope are not his true colors. Freddy was actually tolerable in this movie, and I think him being a main character isn't so bad now. I think Foxy's death is going to help Freddy become more of an enjoyable character in Season 3. As far as plush content goes, I would give this a solid 9 out of 10 for this movie. This was a fun watch and didn't feel all too long, despite it being over 2 hours. I had fun watching and I'm excited for the future of this plush universe. Good stuff, Andrew. Bye.